Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and no, this title is not clickbait. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that some of my titles can be a little clickbaitish. Alright, I get that, alright, I gotta thank the YouTube system for that, alright, I gotta thank my daddy Linus for teaching me well. But to understand, okay, no shade being tossed around, when I make a title like this, it's gonna be real, okay? The PlayStation 5 is in fact hacked, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go! Now, of course, you might be like, wow, the PlayStation 5 actually exists, and it's true. Finding the system is like finding a needle in a haystack, or the love of your parents. But to be real, I bought the PlayStation 5 on launch. I actually bought two of them, and I'm a little sad because I ended up giving the other one to my brother, and I checked with my brother. He updated it to the most recent version so he could play like Persona 5 Strikers, and I don't have access to an exploitable PlayStation. I did buy one a month ago, I would say, and it's currently sitting in storage. Now, the problem with this is an older version of a jailbreak that exists. So again, if you have an older PlayStation 5 that hasn't really been updated, so with Lance McDonald, who basically showcases the PlayStation 5 jailbreak, he loads up a web page browser over here, and he loads up the actual exploit through the WebKit, okay? Basically through the PlayStation web browser, kind of similar to when we covered the PlayStation 4 jailbreak. Here you can see he loads a bunch of payloads into the system, and of course going forward he's in the debug menu on the PlayStation 5. Now of course Lance McDonald, who's made some amazing content specifically around PT, Bloodborne, has actually shown some installation of PT, but unfortunately because of a blacklist on the PlayStation 5 system that cannot be modified, you literally cannot install and run some games. You actually can't install a lot of Homebrew. Right now, this is all a proof of concept to show that the PlayStation 5 has in fact been compromised, hacked, and we can one day run Homebrew. Now, this is for the version 4.03. Now, currently, PlayStation 5s, as far as I understand, are running at version 6.0. It actually took me a little bit to get this because the PlayStation system, software readout, like the little page and the actual console is a little confusing. It's like 22 dash whatever string, but for me I was on like 6.00, okay, something of that nature. If you're not on 4.03, then this is not going to work for you. Now when I asked Lance McDonald about this, he told me again he bought it from the Elden Ring network test, okay, so this is like a while back. Now, this is a WebKit exploit, okay? So WebKit is effectively a browser engine that's basically available across multiple devices, okay? Your computer, your gaming consoles, your smartphones, okay? And by leveraging an exploit specifically within the font face, this exploit, which basically has a lot of roots with the PlayStation 4 9.0 Poobs 4 exploit that we actually looked at a while back for the PlayStation 4, actually works on the PS5. Now, of course, this exploit isn't perfect, okay? First off, the stability isn't all the way there. If you ever tried to exploit a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, you'll understand that it takes a few attempts to actually get it launched on the system. They're not foolproof, and they're not complete untethered, like, custom firmwares that are booting up, alright? It's not like that at all. This is not something like the Nintendo Switch or the 3DS, which we just hacked, where you can actually install straight-up custom firmware. This is something that you have to actually consistently exploit every time you power the system up from a complete cold boot. Now, of course, this exploit, which basically allows you to read and write, and you can basically run basic RPC servers for read-writes, and you can enable that debug setting menu that we actually just looked at. You can even get root privileges. Currently, the problem with the PlayStation 5 exploit is that there is no code execution available. And according to the actual people behind it, it's because you cannot dump kernel code for gadgets, as the kernel text pages are marked as ZOM, so execute only memory. Now, of course, you also have to combine the PS5 hypervisor, the actual system that enables kernel write protection, and you cannot install any patches or hooks into that kernel space at all. So effectively, you can basically get packages, and it seems like you can install them or get them into the system. You can read and write and play around with things, but when it comes time to executing those systems or executing PT or even Homebrew, you cannot get that running simply because you don't have that access yet. Again, like I said at the beginning, this is mostly a proof of concept as to what a jailbroken PS5 is going to be like. But regardless, the world of computer hacking and the world of exploitation is built on baby steps, okay? Baby steps. That's the word to keep with you. So effectively, all right, when you get into the PS5 hacking community, this will be the sort of front gate, the garrison, as the community evolves. and the methods get much more intricate, and of course the system becomes more exploitable as time goes on. You can even see it by other people who are testing the kernel exploit, again, by accessing the user guide, alright? They can actually go around, run the exploit kind of the same way that you do it in the PlayStation 4 anyways. And then, of course, once you've launched it, you launch all those payloads, and then effectively you're inside the debug menu for the system. Again, the stability isn't all the way there, but, alright, you're still able to get in. Again, it's baby steps into the situation. Now, if you have a system that's old, if you can set up a web server, which isn't really difficult to do, you can, of course, download the exploit and run it for yourself. Again, proof of concept, so don't completely lose your expectations with it. Now, if anybody's wondering, well, I guess I can't play my multiplayer games, the PS5 has hacks running in it, before misinformation gets spread, this proof of concept does not allow you to hook actual cheats into video games, okay? That's not a thing, and even if it could, it currently runs on version like 4.03. Currently, I'm on version 6.0 on the PlayStation 5. Right now, as of the most recent firmware, which you need to connect to the online infrastructure, it is not hackable, so don't worry about people getting into your games and hacking your lobbies. You still suck at Call of Duty Warzone, okay, if you're playing strictly against PlayStation users and you're failing, alright? That's you sucking, not them hacking, alright? Yet, at least. You can even look right over here as the page is started. You're actually launching a bunch of different payloads, again. And of course, this is the full-on debug menu in a much higher quality setting. So that's pretty much where we're at. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this super excites me because one day the PlayStation 5 will be jailbreaked to the point where we can actually utilize its full resources. Now, if you own a PlayStation 5, it's a pretty serious piece of kit that you can pick up for a few $100s, okay? For the price that you pay for, the PlayStation 5 is a pretty fast system. So not only is emulation going to be super duper fun on this system anyways, not that, it's going to be as easy and fun to do on something like, versus the Steam Deck, the PS5 is going to be a solid system for you to plug up to a TV and emulate a whole litany of systems onto. But one of the more interesting parts about this too is how this is going to allow us to run PC games potentially. If you remember back when I was actually playing around with PS4 jailbreaking, the most interesting part of PlayStation 4 jailbreaking, in my opinion, is launching Linux onto the system. Now, given the fact that the similarities in hacking the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 exist, like this, I hope that the hypervisor and multiple other security systems in the PlayStation 5 don't limit the launching of Linux onto the actual system. Linux on the PlayStation 4 allows you to actually run PC games right on the system, okay? I, in fact, got Halo Master Chief Collection running on a PlayStation 4 Pro. Given the fact that the PlayStation 5 has much newer graphical architecture, much newer systems, and much more compatible systems with the Linux kernel, I would say, this would be amazing to launch PC games under. Hell, I could see games, even recently released, run absolutely, relatively perfectly on this system, given how mature that specific Linux jailbreak would be. But of course, that completely depends on the limitations of the PlayStation 5 security systems and the PlayStation 5 as a whole. Now, of course, going on forward, again, ladies and gentlemen, PlayStation 5s have also been exploited in other ways too. There's another user known as Masticore who's actually showcased PlayStation 5 and PS4 systems being hacked through the PlayStation 2 emulator within the system itself. It's a super long and interesting read, but if you're interested in hacking systems or really security in general, you should give this a read. What's interesting about this hack too is that using the PlayStation 2 emulator, apparently it seems that what you can do is effectively create PS4 enhanced PS2 Homebrew. So if you actually made PlayStation 2 Homebrew, apparently you can actually use like up to PS4 level powers, if you will, on the actual system that way. Super cool stuff, super interesting. And of course, when it comes to the world of emulation, you might not even need to own a PS5, alright? Because hopefully, about 10 years in the future, I would say, give or take, how advancements happen, you might be emulating PS4 games or even PS5 games on your home system. Last time we looked at things like Spine, where I was able to get games like Sonic Mania PS4 running on my Linux system. Of course, there's emulators like Kitty, I hope I pronounced that right, or Kitty, or whatever, but they actually come with systems where you can actually emulate PS4 games. So here they've got Worms Armageddon actually running on PC through this emulator, okay, hitting gameplay, which again is super interesting. This may not seem impressive to a lot of people, but again, all of this stuff is baby steps, okay? Emulators don't just run Bloodborne at 60 frames per second day one. It took us a while for RPCS 3 to emulate shit like Metal Gear Solid 4, to the point where nowadays, under certain builds, you can play all the way through Metal Gear Solid 4 with 60 frames and 4K graphics, okay? So that's pretty impressive. Hell, nowadays you can even emulate the online functionality and play Metal Gear Online 2. Servers that have been disabled for, well, damn near 10 years plus at this point. Of course, you've seen PlayStation 5 as well being emulated, and here they actually got some homebrew running. Again, this triangle may not excite you, but the fact that we are emulating PS5 Homebrew is absolutely impressive stuff indeed. And of course, this is the first step, the first crack into the entire cave of emulation and homebrew for the PlayStation 5. Now again, given the updates to security in the PS5, it may take a little while before this matures, but definitely it will, okay? There's a whole community of people behind this. And you know what? For the PlayStation 5, which hasn't really been reaching gamers' hands even to this day, still trying to find the system, it can be out of stock. I got lucky buying another system very recently, a month ago. But of course, as the PlayStation 5 matures and people get their hands on the system, it's going to make for a fucking serious emulation box. It's going to make for a serious Linux box, a serious homebrew box. And of course, I love hacking all of my game systems anyways. I believe that it is your God-given right when you purchase this hardware, okay? As long as you don't mess around with people on the internet, I would love to eventually play Bloodborne at higher resolutions and 60 frames per second. Look, it's not like Sony is fucking working on remastering this themselves. They're too busy remastering apparently like 4-year-old games like Horizon Zero Dawn. When in reality, all we want, bro, is some Bloodborne, okay? And if this is going to be the path to get Bloodborne at 4K 60, then goddamn, I am all for it. I'm going to be working on getting myself a PlayStation 5 system too that I can mod around with, and once I get my hands on it, I'm definitely going to make a video as this stuff matures. But for now, yeah, the PS5 has been hacked. Ladies and gentlemen, get excited. The world has finally, opened up. This is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.